Welcome to Wrestle Wolf. I am Damian Gibson. This is our AEW review, and joining me, as always, is the man, the enigma, the mystery. It's Matty.
Hello, how are you going?
I'm good, man.
I feel
good.
I feel disingenuous asking you how you're going when we just talked for about 40 minutes before starting. But
well, we're kind of, we're saying hi to the audience without saying hi, which is a weird. I don't know why we still do these kind of, I don't know why we don't break down the fourth wall in podcasts. It's 2020.
we should be more postmodern. That's my
We should
goal.
Deadpool it up, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There is a lot to unpack from this week's Dynamite. Now you usually get to watch the episode a little bit earlier than me just because of work schedules and things like that. And you sent me a text message, and I don't have my phone in front of me, but essentially it was along the lines of something has happened that is outrageous. I can't watch this anymore. It's all done. It's over. Something like that.
It was something along those lines. I think it was more literary and dramatic, but that's okay. I'll accept your take.
Well, just imagine Matt's intellect and vocabulary saying what I just said, and that's what it was.
Oh, we've just lost listeners. So we suggested that maybe, even though it's technically a spoiler, everyone who's listened to, we're not up to where it is yet. But I was interested to have you guess what you thought it was that disgusted me at this level.
Yeah. I was so busy, I just asked you flat out what it was, and then we was like, "Oh no, why did I do that?" But you very kindly was like, "I'm not going to spoil it for you." And then I was like, "Well, why don't I try and guess what it is while I'm watching Dynamite, and we can talk about it on the podcast."
I did, to be honest, move on relatively quickly. But anyway,
Okay.
What do you think disgusted me?
I've got a few things. So first of all, this is a bit of it. This is a loosener. There's no Excalibur on the commentary team. Is that what it is?
No.
In
fact, I'm not going to say yes or no during this. I'll let you know when we get to it.
Okay. Is it that Brandy Rhodes has an action figure?
Keep going.
Okay. I've just got Vicky Guerrero.
Keep going.
Darby Allin getting the title shot when he is ranked 5th in the AEW heavyweight rankings.
Is that it?
No, I've got heaps more. Also, JR talking about Anna Jay in a sleazy way constantly. I thought that had been put to bed, but that was back. JR having like a complete brain aneurysm about the virus and just started talking about the virus for like 5 minutes. Or it's Taz standing behind Brian Cage and sort of calling out, I think it's a Jim Cornette scenario where Jim Cornette has, or someone like that has bitched about Taz standing in front of the wrestler rather than behind the wrestler. And so he changed that up in the promo this week.
Is that your list?
That's the list I've got.
All right. I'll tell you when we get to it.
What?
I'll tell you when we get to it in our bit of the show. I'm trying to keep listeners. I'm trying to sustain them.
Yeah, I think we might have fallen ass backwards into actually doing a proper podcast. But let's move on. We've got an all-star commentary panel this week, depending on what your opinions are. I'm being nice. We've got Taz, JR, and Tony Schiavone. And we kick off with Orange Cassidy, the Best Friends, and Lucha Express versus the Inner Circle. I loved with this, man, 30 seconds in, and it was an all-in brawl. It just kind of reminded me of, it's a wrestling trope, but it just sort of reminded me of, we've been watching a lot of WCW for our other podcasts, and it reminded me of that. And JR, I don't know whether it was JR or Schiavone who was like, absolute pandemonium has broken out here. It just felt very 1985 Starcade.
I've got to be honest. This match was underwhelming because of that. Like, there was a certain point, and this comes up later in the show, so I don't want to belabor it, where I was just a bit like, well, I do want to see a wrestling match, not 10 guys doing a series of spots.
Yeah, well, that was the next sort of bit of the match. It doesn't help. I've got a bit of a JR being my bonnet, so I'm going to warn you guys about that today, because he was pissing me off. Yes, there were a lot of like high spots happening in this, almost like you say, sort of almost like 10 in a row, and they're all very spectacular and stuff. And JR just making snide comments like, "Oh, it's pretty lucky. It was pretty lucky for whoever it was, Marcus Dunn, Orange Cassidy, whatever, that all those guys were out in the ring there, so he didn't fall to the concrete." Like, what do you do? Whose side are you on?
I think increasingly JR's forgetting that professional wrestling is not real.
He just he has these, like, they sound like little brain aneurysm, like things going off in his head, where he'll just be sort of doing his job and then all of a sudden angry, but it only lasts for like 15 seconds and he's back to good old JR.
Well, I think
It's weird and it really takes me out of the experience. I'm probably listening for it now, but
this episode, except for the brain snaps and the Anna J comment, which was not very good, he was, I quite enjoyed him when he was just normally like, commentating and enjoying the product. But when he like needs to get in his Conrad, I don't enjoy high spots podcast stuff, it doesn't fit. As like having a commentator hate the product is not enjoyable to listen to.
No, not at all. And it's also like, who is this for? Is this for your buddies that you can like talk to after you're having a beer? Are you happy to take Tony Khan's money? It makes no sense. If I was a paranoid stoner, conspiracy theorist, I would say that it feels like he's been planted into AEW to try and take it down from the inside. But I know that that's not the case. But it just feels like that, especially when, again, I thought this was a really strong episode of Dynamite. I enjoyed 95% of it. But yeah, I wasn't noticing the amount of spots that were being done in this match until it was pointed out to me by the commentator.
That's interesting. I'm a bit more equivocal about this episode. This was the episode that I've enjoyed least for a little while.
Yeah, right.
Like, I still quite enjoyed it, but probably not at the same level. Like, I was a bit.
I can understand that.
I was a bit disappointed by this match, though it led to a series of things that I'm looking forward to, which is just good storytelling. The match itself didn't excite me. When Matt Hardy showed up, I thought it was a different looking Matt Hardy, which is notable because this week he said he's giving up all his gimmicks because the world's fucked.
Right.
Which led to a series of other questions about, if the world's fucked, is giving up your gimmicks but still appearing on the wrestling show to be involved in wrestling storylines, making a difference. But I'm willing to give Matt Hardy the benefit of the doubt that this is interesting rather than something particularly that, he's been hit in the head quite a lot.
I like to think that Matt Hardy is the key to everything going back to normal. All, a la Rick Moranis in the original Ghostbusters, that he's just this unassuming guy, but he's had this realization, hey, look, I've got to stop being broken Matt Hardy. What the world needs is for me to wrestle properly, just as Matt Hardy, and then the pandemic will disappear, we'll have some elections happening soon, and everything will be a-okay.
I mean, it's not a terrible call. I mean, if you think about it, he became Broken Matt Hardy, and I don't want to get political on the wrestling podcast, but he became Broken Matt Hardy around the same time that Americans made the worst decision that they've had made up until that point in the modern era. As you go through American decisions, it gets real tough. But the Trump thing was a bad idea, probably in hindsight, and also at the time. And that was when Broken Matt Hardy came about. So maybe he's responsible, is what I'm trying to say. Solely responsible for Donald Trump and everything else that's happening.
I thought you were talking about letting James Corden onto late night.
That was also crap. I mean, Gavin and Stacey's fine, but I think it's been very clear whether that's through. Anyway, let's move on from James Corden.
He's fine. He's fine. He's a nice guy. He's just not funny, which is what you need to host a Tonight Show. Anyway, so yeah, there was a lot of this sort of happening. The match ended, as you say, Matt Hardy got involved, sort of pushing Sammy Guevara towards Luchasaurus, who, basically chokeslammed him, gets the win. And then, that sort of carries on this very sort of subtle Matt and Sammy's storyline that had happened before Sammy's suspension. So I don't know. I don't know whether
well, I think it's first of all,
how I feel about this.
It gets us back into the normal for AEW and Dynamite, which is Sammy Guevara losing the match.
It's true. Welcome back, Sammy.
Which is nice. Like, no one can say, "Oh, they're punishing him," because it's just like, no, this is what he always did. For some reason, you don't let the tag team or fucking Jake Hager lose the match. Jake Hager in weird pants that he was wearing bike shorts. Like, it's just, anyway.
I know. They look like those step up underwear that are like constantly, or whatever, step on underwear that are constantly advertised on like Foxtel.
Why not, instead of having Jake Hager wear bike shorts while wrestling on TV, you fire him?
Oh man, I got swerved then. I didn't see that coming at all. But yeah, I concur. I don't. I can see they're trying to build up something between him and Luchasaurus, because like they're big. And I don't know. That to me, that feels like WWE booking. There's a big guy. He's a big guy. Let's put him in a ring together. And it's like, but that, you know what? I mean, I suppose with Luchasaurus, he could probably make Hager look pretty good. But anyway, next up we had John Moxley cutting a promo, essentially doing his bad guy, Stone Cold John Moxley thing, basically saying that he doesn't start fights. It was a bit of a shift in tone this week, a little bit. He's talking about how Darby Allin's his little buddy and, that he's not a bully. He doesn't start fights, but he does finish them, sort of thing.
It's whatever. It's just rambling, boring bullshit. It's good. It's fine. It's just, Jesus Christ.
I get what you're saying about John Moxley. Like, I really do. Like, I can see it objectively, but whenever he comes on the TV, I turn into like a 9-year-old boy, and I'm like, yeah, and then what? You know what I mean? Like,
but imagine if that promo was Taz standing either behind or in front or to the side of Brian Cage and just talking for 5 minutes. It wouldn't have been like rambly weird shit about like, I don't start fights. And it's like, well, you're a wrestler. Why don't you start fights, man?
It was a metaphor. He's saying he's not a bully, but he does start fights all the time. I've seen him start thousands of fights.
Yeah. Usually with hot dogs and carts and,
all right. His promo style is a little like the end of Dennis Leary's arsehole. You know the bit where he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a 1952 Cadillac convertible, hot pink with baby whale seal for eyes. It's pretty much that. If you put a chorus of like, I'm an asshole behind John Moxley, if one of our listeners can do that, you know what I mean? Get a John Moxley promo and put Dennis Leary behind it, we would love that.
I just had a moment where you said his promos are like the end of Dennis Leary's Asshole, and I forgot that there was a song called Asshole. And I was like, I'm deeply fascinated about where you're going with this.
All right, damn, I trust you. I don't know what the fuck I don't know what's going on. You better land this. Now, next up, I'm doing things on podcasts you shouldn't do, like slapping my fist into my hand. It's going to be annoying the listeners so much. I tend to deal in hyperbole when it comes to wrestlers because I love it so much. When I come across someone new, I'll talk about how they're the greatest wrestler of all time, but Warhorse is the greatest wrestler of all time, and I love him, and I don't like any other wrestlers anymore, and Warhorse is my only wrestler, and if AEW don't sign him, if I don't get a tweet from Tony Khan by the end of today saying the Warhorse is signed, I'm not watching AEW anymore.
They need the promo with Warhorses all elite, absolutely.
Yeah, man. He somehow, because the gimmick could be awful, right? Like he's this, he's like a cross between the Ultimate Warrior and one of the characters from Detroit Rock City.
Oh, so I would have put him slightly different. I would have put him as a cross between a jobber from WWF 1985
yeah.
and Motley Crue.
I like both of our descriptions. I think you get a pretty good. You throw a little Beavis and Butthead in there, and you get like a pretty good picture of what Warhorse is. But he's not.
There's one other description that works exactly perfectly for Warhorse. Chris Jericho in real life outside of wrestling.
Yeah, man. 100%. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, in a suburb called Broadmeadows, and Matthew will know this, but not everyone else listening to the podcast will know. It is the epicenter for what we call here bogans, chavs for English people, and white trash probably for Americans. And so every single patch that was on Warhorse's denim vest was a band that I grew up listening to and secretly fucking love, but don't tell anyone about. Except for a mutual friend of ours, David, when we used to drink together, and 3 o'clock in the morning we'd stick some Slayer on or something along those lines. I just loved all of that. I loved the headbanging. I love like the Motley Crue and Metallica, and what else did I actually wrote down? Kiss, Anthrax, Slayer, Black Sabbath patches. And I love that like his taste in metal is like a metal purist as well. It's not, you know what I mean? Like I'm getting really excited about that. Anyway, so so he comes out. Cody's got a. Did you see that AEW have got like this? I don't know whether it's a Hot Topic thing or something, but they've got like a line of Street Fighter t-shirts where AEW wrestlers are like in a scene with a Street Fighter character.
Yeah, they're obviously selling those.
Yeah, I think I want one. Cody was wearing one with him and M. Bison on it, and I was like, "Yep, they know their audience, and I'm one of them, and I'm buying that shirt." That is it's a Venn diagram where I'm right in the middle, baby. I loved Warhorse's intro, which is 4,000 pounds of heavy metal. They really gave him like the star treatment, even more than Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston in recent weeks. He got Pyro, and the Yappa Dabba gave him a big, like hearty introduction. I don't know if this is a bit. I pay quite a bit of attention to what guys wear to the ring and ring gear and all that kind of stuff. And I noticed that Cody had animal print on his on his tights. And I don't know whether that was just coincidence or whether he's trying to tell some story through his tights of he's trying to show that he's a little bit metal as well. You know what I mean? But he's kind of off the mark and is more hair metal. He's more a Poison guy rather than like Sabbath. So have I looked? I'm doing an arts degree. I may be looking into this a little bit too much.
No, you're right. That's exactly what he was doing. I think what you've done is picked up the exact correct subtext.
I feel like that was my takeaway from it. This match I really loved. I felt like it took a little bit to get off the ground in the first couple of minutes, but by the end I was really into it. Warhorse's stomp off the apron to Cody was brutal. And he did a Macho Man flying elbow off the top rope after that. And there was a 2.5 count that I legitimately jumped off the couch and thought Warhorse had won the TNT Championship. And of course, he didn't, because it's Cody Rhodes, the most handsome man in the universe. And there was he got the win with the figure 4. He kind of, at first, I don't know how you feel about this, the going for the knee. Did you find that a bit repetitive after Eddie Kingston last week, or were you?
I thought it was fine. Did you notice that he did the woo before the figure 4?
No,
he gave a woo.
No, I was probably sulking too hard from realizing that Warhorse wasn't going to win the TNT title.
Well, just given your, I thought that you only watched this thinking about the 4 Horsemen, so I was surprised.
Yeah, well, no, there is Horseman Watch, and so you might be right. That is. I mean, Rick. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, because things happen later on. I think 3 of them are cemented, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a tiny bit, but it's fucking exciting, isn't it? It's
not for me.
Well, yeah, we'll get to we'll talk about it, because I think it's we have this conversation ourselves continuously, and I think it'd be cool to like have it on the podcast for all these guys to hear. Yeah, really entertaining match. The Dark Order came out to attack Cody. I really liked the little, because I feel like this ending could have made Warhorse look quite weak, but the fact that he pushed Cody out of the way to try and deal with the Dark Order, I didn't mind so much what happened next, because it was like, oh, okay, Warhorse is a good dude and he tried to save Cody. The Dark Order get rid of Warhorse. They try to attack Cody, and it's Matt Cardona Zack Ryder. God, I've already forgotten his WWE name. Zack Ryder, to WWE fans, comes in for the save. And I mean, I know I say it every single time a WWE guy appears in another promotion, but Jesus Christ, they're huge.
He looks massive, but also we're going to get to later MJF's state of the business address. Literally, Warhorse losing, then like looking cool for a moment, then Zack Ryder coming in and being like, whoa, I can't believe he's here. Oh my God, that guy that barely appeared on WWE television except when being a jobber for the last 5 years is here. It's like,
yeah,
like Warhorse is cooler than Zack Ryder. Like,
yeah,
he is. And
that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this was not a cool way to debut the WWF guy.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's one. I mean, I didn't hate it. I know there'll be other critics who will rip through this, and that's cool. But I don't like. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, I still have some residual love for Zack Ryder. Like for hanging out with Hugh Jackman, Zack Ryder, getting buried by John Cena, Zack Ryder.
And it'll be if he can. I think it's more interesting on what he does now rather than like, oh, it's him. Wow, I'm so excited to see him. Unless they had like panned across the audience and he was just like sitting there in double denim, and then he took the mic and he's like, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. At which point I'd be like, oh, they're doing the faction I like, not just Four Horsemen.
Yeah, look, I think he can be I think he can be an asset. I just don't know. I mean, he's been in that system for so long, and he's been doing that character for so long that it will be. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what comes next. But having seen him do things outside of that character, he's quite, articulate and seems pretty switched on, funny and stuff. So who knows? I just couldn't get over how goddamn big he was, for someone who was like a mid-card, mid-sized guy in WWE. It's crazy. But anyway, Warhorse is the only wrestler on the face of the planet. And Orange Cassidy. But besides that, I don't care about anyone else. I'm sure within 30 seconds I'll be like, oh, and this guy. And next up, this guy, Chris Jericho, announces that he is going to have a debate with Orange Cassidy next week with a guest moderator.
And what's on the line is $7,000 cash.
Well, that's for the match afterwards. So there's a debate happening next week, and then there's a match the week after. And if Orange Cassidy loses, he has to give Chris Jericho $7,000 for the orange juice drenched jacket.
The most notable thing that happened during this promo was that Chris Jericho asked Sammy Guevara how to say "son of a bitch" in Spanish, and Sammy Guevara replied with "son of el bitch."
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Which is not even how to say "son of a bitch." I'm pretty sure, because isn't el
yeah, so it's son of the bitch. They work really well together. But even, we were talking about this last week with Jericho, but just noticing how he brings like Santana and Ortiz into, like with the little, like, does my jacket still smell like orange juice? He's so good. Like in sporting parlances, he's so good that he can choose to bring other players into the game if he wants to.
Yeah.
And watching him, like, I just don't think that, when he was doing that run with Kevin Owens a couple of years ago in WWE, I was like, this is his peak. Like, Jericho won't do anything. He's done things better than this before, but this will be like the end, towards the end of his career. Everyone will be like, remember that one run with Kevin Owens? That was awesome. Like, you're going on the list, list of Jericho, all that kind of thing. But he's just getting better with age. Each week, his promos are better and more engaging, and it's amazing.
If wrestling was a team sport, you would have to say that, like, Chris Jericho is actually the best of all time, because he's the only sort of top guy who just gets anyone over.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, it's not a team sport, but...
No, but he I just noticed that in this particular promo, it's like, geez, good man. Like, it's always moving a story forward, and everyone gets something, unless it's very purposeful that we're not getting them involved, i.e. Jake Hager. But they also recognize that, like, he's better when he doesn't say anything. Like, don't get him to cut a promo. He's not good at it. So just let him stand there and look huge.
Yeah.
Now, next up, this will open up probably 45 minutes to an hour of Horseman chat. FTR joined by Tony Schiavone at a big wooden table. For some reason, Tony has been entrusted to get the FTR's signature. So they are no longer free agents and join AEW full time. Not sure why Tony Khan's not there, but anyway, Schiavone's running the meeting. There's two lawyers there. There's another representative for AEW. And they're waiting. FTR say they're waiting on someone to look over their on their contracts for them, and it's Arn Anderson.
Which makes sense, sort of.
Well, it makes sense if you're a conspiracy horseman watcher. But if you aren't, then you'd be like, why is Cody's coach there to help out FTR? Like, maybe he's going to manage FTR, and he is when they join the Horsemen.
Yep, and I think that's perfectly fine.
So FTR signed their contracts. I love how they continue their characters as well, where they're like, and we get tag team. Yeah, we get tag team ropes for
Oh,
our
thank
matches. Yeah,
Christ.
100%. And their tag team rule, like in proper tag team rules for all of our matches. Yep, that's in there as well. And we get a tag team appreciation night. Like, yes, that's in the contract as well. It's amazing. Anyway, they sign, and here's everyone's favorite drunk. It's Hangman Page, who comes in with a bottle of bourbon. Looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
No. And this looks like it was shot earlier in the day, so I could already taste the hangover watching it through the screen. And even the little things that they do in AEW, I know I talk about it a lot, but I love it so much. He pours a shot for FTR. He pours a shot for Arn, who says not anymore because he doesn't drink anymore. And then he fills his cup up. He fills his tumbler up. Just to keep reiterating the point that Hangman likes a drink. So that's 3 of the spots filled, my man. That's Hangman and FTR. So
no, I think
thoughts?
I just think that you are in the process of being swerved. You can't have, if they're going to bring the Horsemen back,
Mm-hmm.
the greatest heel group of all time, arguably, other than the Dungeon of Doom, you cannot. There are 4 wrestlers that are executive producers and co-owners of the company.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep pretending that they're the good guys. Like, clearly you pick them as the limousine riding, Jim Jet, also flying, kiss stealing, which I think now you don't kiss steal. Kiss,
No.
consensual havers, sons
Mm-hmm.
of guns. It's those 4, and they make
Or
perfect
daughters.
They where you've got the tag team, you've got the mid card Cody title haver, you've got Kenny as a heel being champion.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
But riddle me this, Matthew. They already are. They already are a faction. They're the elite, and all they have to do is just change their promos. The elite still,
No,
the elite is quite a condescending name to have.
The elite also has Hangman Page, Matt Hardy, FTR. Like, it's just like the elite is ever expanding to half the roster.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hangman is in it for sure. I suppose Matt Hardy's kind of in it. FTR aren't. They do what they want.
They're in the FT. They're in the match next week that we haven't got to yet.
That's true. The only thing I can think of, right, is that Hangman will get stabbed in the back by FTR,
Which
and
is
then
cool.
it becomes Hangman Page is the Dusty Rhodes character, and then I'm sorry to say, man, I'm almost 1,000% sure that Sean Spears is going to be in this Horseman. You're going to have Cody Rhodes, Sean Spears, and FTR.
He can't be in the Horseman if he's not on Dynamite.
Well, I'm just telling you what I think. He's like, he's been there the whole time, unless Sean Spears takes the managerial role where he can like take a bump every now and then and wrestle if he needs to, but essentially is a manager, and then that's a way where they can bring in another member to the Horsemen.
I'm not.
But then you don't have Arn or Tully managing, which has to be the whole reason that they've got them. Oh man, I'm so into this. I'm so into
You can't have Sean Spears in the Horseman. It is so like, I know that the Horseman got a bit ridiculous. I know that Mongo McMichael. I would rather them bring back Mongo.
Oh man, Mongo McNuggets.
You've
Imagine
got,
bringing him back.
you've got Brian Pillman Jr. Brian Pillman was briefly a horseman.
Yeah, gotta
Get,
see more of Brian.
get
God, there's so many young wrestlers I want to see on TV.
that aren't Sean Spears.
Hey, I agree with you. I don't want Sean Spears in the Four Horsemen. I'm just saying I can't see a world where it doesn't happen. I
Bring,
hope you're right.
bring back Lex Luger. Just anything but more Sean
No,
Spears.
that they are the thoughts of Matthew. I do not agree with bringing Lex Luger back for anything, especially a new Horseman. This is a fresh start, man.
He needs one more run. He'll get over. He'll finally get over.
Just one more run, man. Next up, we had Evil Uno and Matt's favorite Stu Grayson versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega.
Is that Stu from the King of the Hill that used to drink with Hank Hill?
Yeah. Right off the top, Jr. says, "This is Stu. Don't call me Dick Grayson." So he's even annoying people out the back by giving them nicknames that they don't want.
And also just timely references.
Dick Grayson, yeah.
It was 1999 that Batman and Robin came out, and probably the last time that Robin was in a feature Batman film. I could be wrong.
Yeah, film, yeah. Unless JR's a big Titans fan.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, so this is this is a whole bunch of sort of dark order weirdness going on in this match. We've got Colt on commentary. We've got Brody Lee sort of standing over him. Anna Jay is reintroduced as a member of the Dark Order. Obviously, Brody Lee's a big listener to WrestleWolf because we were talking about where she was last week. This match was all right. Like, I didn't, I actually thought Stu Grayson for the second time, and I mean, as much as we sort of tease his name in relation to the Dark Order, he's a pretty damn good wrestler.
I enjoyed this match more than I've enjoyed anything to do with the Dark Order thus far.
Yeah, right.
Like,
why's that?
Other than those early promos when they changed from being bondage incels to just Scientology incels. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the end when Colt gets shooed off and Brody Lee just I thought Brody Lee's promo was the best thing he's done in AEW so far. By a long
at the
shot.
end of the match.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a match for the titles, which I didn't actually sort of realize until it was happening. And that made sense because they had the Dark Order as the number one contenders for the belt. And so they've sort of dispatched with that now, but can keep the story sort of motoring along. So after Page and Omega win, Brody Lee cuts this promo where he basically humiliates Grayson and Uno in front of everybody on the stage. Hangman Page is laughing, which actually made me laugh as well.
Yeah.
It's just because it was like, this is so ridiculous. And I first I was like, is he corpsing? I was like, oh no, this is part of the storyline, but it still made me laugh anyway. And then Brody Lee calls him out. He's like, you think this is funny, Hangman Page? And then 7,000 Dark Order people come out of the crowd and surround the ring. The Young Bucks, our mates, the Young Bucks appeared because Brody Lee called them out before all these little sort of ninjas came out. They all try and jump on the Elite. The Elite are sort of holding their own, and then FTR come out with a with an esky or a beer cooler again, smash it over Brody Lee, and then run to the ring to for the save for the Elite, and this sort of ongoing, begrudging respect between the three tag teams continues.
It's starting to get to the point where AEW are fetishizing people who drink at work.
It's not dumb though, man, because there would be, there's been so much talk about demographics and all that kind of thing, but ultimately there's a huge audience of lapsed wrestling fans, and they're the people who enjoyed, the Attitude Era and the Nitro era of WCW, where things are a bit more loosey goosey, and I mean, the biggest wrestler in the world at that time that all those guys loved was Stone Cold, who stuck his finger up at people and drank beer. I don't think it's. I think it's smart. Like, while the competition are sort of trying everything they possibly can to be the Disney of wrestling, it makes sense for AEW to sort of try and play in that space, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And it, I mean, different for 2020, not different for 1998. But it's
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I think it's fine. FTR are more interesting here than when they were forced to have itchy testicles in WWE because the New Day tricked them.
Oh,
For a
man.
company that's really focused on being PG and being like okay for kids to watch, there's a lot of like testicle distress in WWE.
So much. So much. You hear the stories about Vince, like what he finds funny, like forcing people to travel with him, and then him just like cutting huge farts and rolling up the windows, like that's that's the level of, I mean, this is the genius that is Vince McMahon. He just loves a fart joke. I mean, we all do, right? But when you hear that and then you see that, you see the ball jokes, the constant testicle jokes, you're like, that's a Vince. That's a Vince flourish on that on that script.
Yeah.
All right. Quickly, we had another Britt Baker promo where she basically said to camera that because there was the announcement of the what's going to happen with the women's tag team tournament. So essentially, it's kind of old Royal Rumble style rules where people go to a barrel, they pick out a color rather than a number, and that determines who their tag team partner is.
Well, given
Um,
last episode, we were talking about the fact that like shit, are they going to have they don't have that many tag teams. This is a cool idea. Like it's interesting
hmm,
to be like, oh, they can bring in people from elsewhere. They
yeah,
can do whatever. Like this is cool. This is different. I like it.
yeah, me too. I was a bit worried about how how they were going to construct this, but I really like this. Again, it's leaning on sort of old tropes, but they're old tropes for a reason,
Yep.
and they work.
And it's not for a
Um,
new title belt. It's for a cup,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is good.
yeah, which I'm down with as well. Not enough cups in wrestling, man. Have a one-off tournament or a bi-yearly tournament. Anyway, um, now I missed. Work got in the way, and I missed the hurdle that Britt set for Big Swole. But it was essentially that she has to win
She has to
the tag team tournament to.
no, she has to defeat someone of Brit's choosing.
Right. Okay, cool. Um, then we had Hikaru Shida versus Diamante. Um, this is when JR has another aneurysm about a push. That's his like big favorite thing to crap out on Conrad's podcast, where it's like all these fans want their favorite wrestler to get a push. He talks like Cartman when he's angry.
He
You notice
does.
that?
Yeah, he does. That's absolutely spot on.
It's Kenny. He can't say Kenny Omega, probably Kenny. Anyway, I'll stop talking because it just gets boring. But I just noticed that it's like, oh, here we go. Hikaru gets a pretty easy win, I thought, against Diamante, who had a promo before the match, and it felt like they were sort of building her up. It was was it for the belt? They didn't seem to make a big deal out of it. If it
No, I
was,
think it was sort of supposed to be more like if Diamante wins, she's employed, which is real WWE style booking.
yeah, like just employ her because she looks badass and looks like she could probably have some solid matches. And
Mm.
you need to flush out your women's division. So
And this was enjoyably ruthless. Like this had a bit of. I really liked this. I thought this was a pretty good match.
yeah, yeah. There wasn't a huge amount that happened storyline wise or anything like that. But as far as the match was concerned, it was great.
Hmm.
And this, in the end of the match, JR has another rant about the virus. Did you notice that? It went on for ages.
I wouldn't have even called it a rant so much as a ramble.
Yeah. It was just weird. Everyone blames everything. You don't get your laundry on time. It's the virus. Anyway, next up we had a promo that had so many Easter eggs, so many little nods and winks and gut punches that
No,
I'm
no,
gonna.
you're missing something. You're missing the thing that I hated.
Oh, what?
Just before I'm assuming you're talking about the MJF promo.
Yes.
The Vicky Guerrero Nyla Rose promo happened.
Oh, well, I kind of I I kind of mentioned it with the Royal Rumble stuff. Yeah, I did sort of kind of
Returning, the thing I hated that you didn't get, Ariane Andrew as the big reveal returning person who played Cameron in WWE and was terrible. She was a Funkadactyl. She was
Oh my god, she's the other Funkadactyl. I didn't even. I was when she walked on screen. I was like, she seems familiar, but yeah.
the most notable thing she did
Oh my
in
god.
wrestling is when she was in Tough Enough and Stone Cold Steve Austin standing in front of her asked her what her favorite match of all time was, and she said Melina versus Alicia Fox on Raw. So we got a lot to look forward to from Cameron.
What, that week? Did she misinterpret the question?
She
Or
did not. She just didn't know anything about wrestling, and that's why I'm glad she's back. It'll be great to see her.
Oh man. That's, even if you can't think of something on the spot, that's where you go, oh man, I don't even know. There's so many. I don't even know where to start, Steve.
Just make
What,
up two wrestlers.
one of your matches?
Yeah.
I can't remember which pay per view it was, but I think was it King of the Ring against Bret Hart, where you didn't tap out and he choked you out. Is that no? I can't remember. Anyway,
But that's the thing. Just pick a famous wrestler that you like. You have to know. Like you're standing in front of Steve Austin, so be like, "There's so many." And you're on. This is not the first week. Be like, think about some older wrestler that had been on Tough Enough, and be like, "You versus Mick Foley,"
yeah.
and like he'd be like, "Oh, okay, that that's not really like very popular." She's like, "Well, I'm underground. I'm into the odder stuff." Anyway, we can move on. But I was disheartened to see that Ariane Andrew is something that we're paying attention to
Yeah.
now. Anyway,
Yeah, I wasn't blown away by the spot, and I would never have got that
no.
ever.
Well,
because it was-
you're really a fan. You were not a big Funkadactyls guy, but you were really into her one single "Bye Bye" that she released.
Oh my god. No, I didn't. No, the Funkadactyl, like that was that. We feel like we talk about this era of WWE every week, but that was the Alberto Del Rio, Jack Swagger. You had CM Punk, John Cena at the top of the card, and then you had all this bullshit underneath it, and it was a really bad, like 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
like even for WWE standards. Anyway,
100%. Alberto Del Rio is going to be interrupting a Cody match. Like he might beat Cody for the TNT title because that's really like where we're heading.
no,
We're trying to do the full story arc of WCW, but within the space of 2 years.
Yeah, but it's like it's NWA. It's like the whole thing. It's NWA turning into WCW, and then it's Nitro, and then it's the It's the Vince Russo years, but it's all it all happens in 18 months. Now, MJF promo. It starts with Wardlow knocking on the door, and MJF walking out of his dressing room. This is 100% him saying he's Goldberg, right?
Yeah.
That AEW is WCW, and he is the fucking Goldberg of AEW.
That is
Not only is he the most over wrestler, but he's undefeated.
That's exactly what it was. Undeniably.
He also had his own posters along the hallway. I love how he has a helper that just puts a piece of chewing gum in his mouth.
A series of helpers. They were fantastic.
Yeah, someone had some contract for him to sign because he's very rich and powerful and important. So, of course, he's signing things. Even in 2020, where people don't really sign things anymore all the time, you would be doing it on your phone. But anyway, it's a TV show, Damien. Shut up. So that was before the break. He goes out to the ring, and he's kind of, I don't know whether he's changed the character slightly or like he's essentially kind of a politician. Like he's running for.
Well, this is a like they made several references. Like obviously, state of the industry is state of the union, but like they and MJF 2020, but they referred to it as next week as Super Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's obviously a Super Tuesday reference. Who knows why, but they've really engaged in obscure, not even obscure, but just references to politics.
Well, it makes me think that this promo is going to continue, or this program, sorry, is going to continue till November, because I feel like they've gone, someone's gone, hey, look, it's 100 days till the election. I'm going to, I can quite easily do this sort of like presidential slant of MJF. Let's do that, It worked for me. I didn't hate it or anything. It didn't feel weird. It was just like, oh, okay, this is different. He had like his Burberry on the podium. He had a podium with American flags in the background. Also has a new logo of a lion with a kind of like slouch crown on it. I don't know how to. It's like half beret, half crown.
It's cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool. If a shirt gets released with that on it, I am buying it. This promo was amazing, man. He calls out John Moxley. Basically saying, you're the big dog from the competitor who comes along and becomes the dictator of the place, brother. Which popped me so hard. I was like, oh, I'm a nerd. I know what he's talking about. He's talking about Hulk Hogan going as WCW. Oh my God. But it is like, I don't know how you felt about all this, but I really loved it. He also, dropped Stone Cold. He was like, you're. What did he say? It was along the line.
Moxley is ripping off Stone Cold.
Yeah, and he was like, and that's a Stone Cold fact. And then he ended it saying he's announcing his candidacy for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. MJF is amazing on the mic, right? I feel like that's something that pretty much every wrestling fan can agree on. Well, that's a divisive comment, but anyway, I think most people who've seen him can see that he's extremely talented. This promo to me, with all the little, it showed that he's a big wrestling fan to me. With all the little nods to Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, and bits and pieces, the Goldberg entrance. I loved these are the things that happen on a weekly, when they happen on a weekly show, and I sit back afterwards and go, that's why I fucking love wrestling. When someone like MJF comes along and cuts a promo like that involves all this history and storylines, and you have to know the stories to be a part of it, which I know can be a little sort of like isolationist, but I just loved all of this. I'm really keen to know what you think.
I immediately thought that he might have been listening to this podcast and ripping me off with his John Moxley comments.
Yeah, true.
It was cool. Like it was really, really good. It was really, really fascinating. it was so him with a microphone is one of the most engaging things in professional wrestling at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I like if they're going to MJF beating Moxley, then I'm okay with the cage thing. We're even.
Yeah, I genuinely, we'll get to your boy Cage in, well, now pretty much. He, next up we had the John Moxley and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks match. Bit of a interesting, different opening to this. Darby Allin's music hit. He didn't come out, and I, when you know everything that happened, you're like, oh, okay, that's what's going on here. But um, I love how everyone just went, oh well, like they gave him like 25 seconds of his music. He didn't come out, and they just go, Mox, are you here? And they play Mox's music.
And his music, Darby Allin's music, is the most WCW thing about AEW as well, because it's like, Diamond Dallas Page walked out to like sounder like, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen
Yeah,
Spirit. This is
no,
like
so
Darby
damn
Allin
good.
comes out to like sounder like sort of, I don't know, Jesus and Mary chain. Like
Yeah,
it's really like it's so WCW. It's like, why wouldn't, like, just, you've got Tony Khan, like, just fuck it, pay for Just Like Honey, like, just have like,
yeah,
something seriously cool. Or like, it's not that it's uncool, it's that it's just like comically sound alike to.
yeah, yeah. So Mox comes out. He comes to the ring, and then we cut to backstage. Taz cuts a promo. So this is before they're meant to go out stage. We've got Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and Taz backstage. You can see the ring over their shoulder. And Taz does a very old school, kind of Bobby the Brain type heel promo where he's just like pointing at Brian Cage's muscles and describing them, like, look at his traps, they're the size of a mountain. Look at his biceps, they're like a boulder. Like what is going on here? Then they like, after that goes on for a bit. And that was the point. That was the part where Taz talks about standing behind the wrestler instead of in front of them. I'm sure some old timers had a brain aneurysm about that during the week. Then we hand over the mic to Ricky Starks, who cuts a really good promo. As everyone who listens to this knows, I love Ricky Starks. So I was happy for it, but I found this whole bit weird. Their music hits, Cage's music hits, they go out, and then Darby Allin jumps from the roof of the stadium onto them and knocks them all out.
Something like that,
Yeah.
which is fine, I guess. I don't know.
Mm,
It was fine.
yeah.
Ricky Starks this was the first time in AEW that I've been like, he seriously is like money.
Yeah.
He was good.
Yeah, man, I really, really like him. I mean, you can't just get rid of Cody, Kenny Omega, John Moxley. But for me, the people that and I'm not saying this to just try and be like a fucking Uber heel, an Uber mark, but Ricky Starks, Brian Pillman, MJF, Hangman Page, like the next, hopefully Warhorse, like that Jungle Boy, I suppose. The next sort of generation below those guys are the big takeaway for me from this Dynamite was like their roster is starting to get fucking stacked in a way that is not apparent straight away. If you were just looking at it, you wouldn't go, "Oh, that's one of the greatest rosters of all time." But I don't know, man. I'm like, if all of those guys, all those younger guys, hit the potential that we think that they have in 2 years time, 2 years time, we could be looking at a Nitro Attitude Era level of a roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you've got enough veterans and like enough veterans that are actually good. Like you mentioned, Kenny Omega and Cody, they're actually good. You've got famous people who happen to be wrestlers that are pieces of shit, like John Moxley. Um,
You're starting to your heel turn is happening at the same incremental level as Cody each week.
it's really weird because when the Shield happened, I was like, look, that's Tyler Black, and Tyler Black's really cool.
Yeah.
Like he'll be really good in the ring. That's Roman Reigns, who I don't know who that is, but he's related to The Rock, so I'm sure he'll be fine. And
Hmm.
that's John Moxley, who is like the single best thing in wrestling at the moment, and like he's like CM Punk, but like younger and potentially cooler. And then it's all just fucking hot dogs and fucking chuckle. Fucking Bane mask bullshit, or like just like rocking up every so often to like cut a rambling promo that's like you watch his old CZW promos and then watch what he fucking does for like he did that for essentially no money. And now he's getting paid a fortune in AEW, and like he's just forcing us to watch garbage. Like maybe we should be pay- they should be paying we. Maybe myself and Tony Khan should be paying John
Hmm.
Moxley less to perform
Okay.
better.
Well, yeah, this match, I don't know. Uh, fine is probably the word. I mean, yeah, you use that word. I can't think of anything better or different. um, it was a fine main event match. I really like the skateboard with thumbtacks uh, spot to end it, but it did seem a little. I don't know. It's just like, hey kids, check it out. It's Darby Allin. He's fucking crazy. Check him. He's gonna do that. Like, of course it has to be a skateboard. Like, it just feels a bit. Okay, I get it. He likes skateboards. Like,
Yeah,
does it have to be every week? I mean, we're starting to get sort of late '80s, early '90s WWF here, where like it's Darby skateboarder Allen. Like what's his character? He's a skateboarder. Like he was such an interesting sort of character before he had his little break, and then I don't know. He spent all that time at Pipeworks, like doing coffin drops and sick ollies, and now he's come back, and I don't know. I just don't feel the same way about him.
yeah. I oscillate while he's on screen.
Hmm.
Like I'm like, oh yeah, I really like Darby Allin. I don't know, man. Why is he like constantly? Why is he a skateboarder, not a wrestler? Unless they're gonna like do a WCW, he has a job, or a WWF, he's a garbage man, but also a wrestler.
Yeah.
Which cool.
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, like, yeah, okay, he's got like that's what he's into, and that's his, let your own character out and all that kind of thing. It doesn't. We don't need to be hit over the head with it. This is something that other promotions, not just WWE now, but WCW in the past, a lot of different promotions have fallen into the trap of like, oh shit, okay, they really like this person, do the same thing all the time, whatever it is. Skateboard, like he skates, right? So fuck, people love that when he skated to the ring. So let's just have him with a skateboard all the time, you know.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe we're being. I mean, I could understand people going, "Oh, relax, guys. Like it was just one spot," but it just that's like 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row now where a skateboard has been involved in the main event of Dynamite, and it just, I'm just a little kind of bleh
I think
about it.
he also like he's stepped away from those exceptionally cool, weird black and white promos that both of us were really, really into.
Yeah, because we're wankers.
Yeah, yes, because of that.
No, but you're right. I mean, there was something interesting.
Mm,
He's also a film major, and so he was using that to cut promos that were like super interesting. And I feel like it's been condensed down into like the Poochie version of Darby Allin, where it's like, oh yeah, and he skateboards, he skateboards and wears black and white makeup, and
Yeah. No, it's I can't say I have a heap to say about this match itself.
No, well, yeah. So basically, Darby Allin killed Ricky Starks with a the skateboard with thumbtacks in it, and they got the win, I suppose. And then Cage and Starks, retreat, and then we have like a square off between Darby Allin and John Moxley, and it's announced that they're going to be fighting for the heavyweight championship next week.
But they don't know that, which is weird.
But they didn't know that. Yeah.
It's, fair enough. So
I suppose that can kind of be explained away as like, oh, the tension's palpable. But it was kind of funny that, JR's saying, like, we've just got word from Tony Khan that these two are going to be fighting in a heavyweight championship match next week. And they just happen to be squaring off when they've been best buds for 3 weeks. Just was like, okay, cool wrestling.
Whatever.
That's the end of the show, man.
What we've got for the next episode, we've got another MJF update, which I think is a net positive.
Yeah.
We've got the Dark Order versus Cody. Dark Order versus Cody and Matt Cardona.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not Stewart and Evil Uno. It's just 7 and 10 or whatever.
Okay.
The other Dark Order with a whole bunch of them versus, which I think has Colt and Brody in it, which is good. And I think Stewart and Dark Uno. Evil Uno, not Dark Uno. Versus Hangman, Omega, FTR, and the Young Bucks.
That'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be good. Moxley versus Allen, which will probably be fine. And a debate between Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. That will be the greatest debate of all time. The only way it could be any better is if the secret moderator is Warhorse, and then I'll have my 3 favorite wrestlers of all time, except for Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. There's a reference. Imagine if it was. Who do you think the secret moderator is going to be?
It'll be Lex Luger. Like it'll be someone like that. It'll be some old guy. I would have said Jake the Snake, but obviously he's busy.
It's got to be one of Jericho's weird mates that he's picked up along the way. You know what I mean? Like slightly.
Oh, it's Dean Malenko.
Dean Malenko, I would be like, oh my god, it's Dean Malenko. But it's got to be someone who speaks. Malenko doesn't speak kayfabe wise.
He can speak.
No, I've heard he's quite funny, but kayfabe wise, he's the Iceman. He's the man of 1,000 holds.
It'd be good if it was Lance Storm.
That would be great. Can I be serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Lance Storm would be great. And he is best mates with Jericho, and he's been furloughed from WWE. We might have just cracked the code, I think.
Yep. Once again, like they're listening now and they're like, Eureka, we've got it.
Fuck, give Lance a call.
The Cody in a tag match means he's not defending the TNT title, which means I'm assuming they're building to a big Elite Dark Order thing, but I'm also assuming that Matt Cardona is gonna, challenge Cody to the TNT title next week. Next week.
Oh yeah, cool. All right, I'm not, I much prefer the indie wrestler of the week scenario, but also they can't just keep signing every good wrestler on earth. Like it seems like they've been quite sort of pointed and intelligent with the wrestlers that they have signed so far. So it kind of makes sense that, although Matt Cardona, you could argue maybe not, But we'll see. We've got to give him a chance. But yeah, man, I just want to see more. I want to see Warhorse versus Eddie Kingston, or Brian Pillman versus Warhorse. Oh man,
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind seeing Warhorse versus Chris Jericho at some point.
Yeah, he cuts pretty good promos as well from stuff that I've seen on Twitter. It seems like he's a pretty funny dude.
Yeah.
So we've got that to look forward to. Man, being an AEW fan is an exciting deal right now, my friend.
Hopefully.
It's weird when I'm the optimist in a duo, but I feel like that is the role that I've taken on between the two of us. Everything's going to be fine, man. Brian Cage will win the championship at some point, and Jon Moxley will not always be champion. So don't,
I hope so.
Concentrate on the positives, dude. Warhorse. That's one word. Warhorse.
It's all in
not 2 words, but cool, man. We can wrap it up there. We've had a lot of listeners come on board in the last week. In fact, it's been crazy. I still haven't kind of got my head around the numbers over the last couple of days. So, thank you. If you like it, and it seems like people are, if you can rate and review it, which some people have been doing, which is great. We're a 5-star podcast.
Don't say that, because people will start being honest.
No, don't be honest. Just give us the 5 stars. And tell your friends. You can follow us on the socials. We will have some WCW stuff dropping at the end of this week. Ball Brawl 95 on Sunday will be dropping. Nitro episode 3 will be dropping on Monday. There's the new WWE weekly show that will also be dropping on Sundays, which is, I was going to say labor of love, but it's anyway, I do it and it's out on Sundays. Yeah, I watch it so you guys don't have to. So you can thank me by rating and reviewing us 5 stars. But yeah, we will be back next week for the AEW show next week.
Goodbye.
See you, man.